Welcome to Travel Secrets with me, Tanya Rose, the podcast sharing wisdom for fellow travellers. Each week, I ask my guests to reveal their 6 travel secrets and the holidays and adventures that surround them. I would just like to say thank you to Mason Rose, the sales and communication agency that represents some of the finest hotels around the world, for partnering with Travel Secrets, the podcast. Today, my guest is one of my very favourite British actresses, Lesley Manville. I cannot tell you how honoured and delighted I am to have you on my sofa.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You started your career when you were very, very young, probably as a singer, I think I heard, with your father and your sister and you singing all over the world. And then...
No, we weren't singing all over the world then, because that was very much... family amateur thing. But I trained classically, as did my sister. We used to sing with my dad, who was a bit of a crooner. But that was just for pleasure and in little local places in Brighton. But then when I was 15, I left school and I went to the Italia Conti stage school in London to finish my education and do the vocational work in the afternoons, the singing, the dancing, the acting. So that's how that started. But my first job was a musical because I could sing.
Amazing.
Yeah. So,
well, you are so prolific. You have done so many amazing things. It's difficult to even summarise, but most recently as Princess Margaret in The Crown.
Yes.
I came to see you with our lovely mutual friend Mark Strong in Oedipus.
yes.
The Phantom Thread is one of my very favourite films and I think was life-changing for you.
Yes.
Just so many wonderful, wonderful things. So I'm sure travel has impacted the person that you've become. So welcome to Travel Secrets.
Thank you.
And perhaps before we start, you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and how travel has made you the person that you are.
Well, to give you a picture of how my life is now, last year, 2024, I probably slept in my bed 2 nights or so. No, not 24, 23 into the first half of 24. I was away so much. So for me, oddly enough, travel is very linked to work. I actually take holidays very rarely. I live alone, happily. I don't have a partner, happily. So the whole notion of going on holiday isn't something that I've done for a long time. I used to when my son was younger. We used to go away and have trips. But now I don't feel shortchanged by that, though, because the last 18 months, I've been to so many great places within the sphere of my work. And what I love about being in a place is thinking, right, I'm here now for 6 weeks, 3 months, whatever. You feel like you live there as opposed to just dropping in and being a traveller and being a sightseer. And so I feel that's, for me, that's the nicest way to see somewhere, is to actually throw myself into the whole thing of being, as it were, however temporary, a resident of that place.
And then you get under the skin of that destination
Yes.
and you feel like a local.
Yeah, and I might be staying in hotels sometimes, but if it's a longer gig, I'll have an apartment and so that's, for me, travel's been about that. Now, I do weekends, but that I don't think that really constitutes a holiday. But actually saying, right, I'm going to go to the Maldives for Christmas
I
haven't done for a very long time. It is partly because I have a very dear friend who has an amazing house in the Luberon Valley in France.
Oh, lovely.
And every year he invites a small posse of people over a period of 3 weeks. You can come and go. He has chefs. It's beautiful. We all know each other. You can start the day with fabulous breakfast and get into great conversations, or if you don't want to, you can go and have a swim, or you can sit in the hammock and read your novel, or whatever. It's that kind of easy time. So I've done that quite a lot over the last 10 years that he's had this place. I haven't been for the last few years, but it's very hard with my job to book things up. For example, I've had a Eurostar train booking to Paris with a very close girlfriend of mine, because we did it once a few years ago, just went for a long weekend. I've had that booked and I've changed the ticket 5 times now.
Because you're so busy.
Because I'm so busy. And then I'd booked it for January. I've had to change it again.
Because you're going to LA?
Because I'm going to LA.
Well, it's lovely because it's wonderful for us that you're working so much because we get to see you. But it is maybe sometime you've got to take a bit of a holiday.
No, I know I have. I know, but I don't feel shortchanged in the travel area of my life because of working in so many different places. And so apart from doing Oedipus, which we started rehearsals for in August 24, as I say, the year, 18 months prior to that, pretty much all away.
Are you going to tell us about some of the places you went away?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's get into your travel secrets. So what is the number one destination that you think everyone should go to once in their lifetime? And it's very hard to choose one.
It probably ties up with another one of your questions, but I can't help but merge them.
That's fine.
It's an unexpected place, but I think it's definitely somewhere I would say if you can go there. I ended up probably 18 months ago-ish in Tasmania.
Oh, wow.
Doing Who Do You Think You Are?
Oh, really? Interesting.
Now, the story took us to Sydney because my 3 times great-grandfather had been sent there as a criminal.
Oh, really?
He actually wasn't a criminal because then they were all pardoned. It was to do with the swing riots, which is when a whole swathe of farmers, working men, sort of were having a rebellion against the landowners who were raising the price of their land so that the landowners were cutting back the wages of the working men, the agricultural labourers. So this swathe of agricultural labourers across the south of England, it went Kent, Sussex, Hampshire, down to Dorset. They rebelled. And it was mostly non-violent. I think 2 men were executed, hanged, but out of thousands. But the rest were sent to Australia. And one of them was my 3 times great-grandfather. Later, Lloyd George, who became Prime Minister eventually, did a universal pardon because he said these people were not criminals. They were actually fighting for their rights. So they were all pardoned, but they could never come back.
I was going to say, did their families come back? No.
They couldn't come back. So my 3 times great-grandfather, his wife had not long died when he was sent there. He left 9 children, ranging from 7 months to 17.
Wow.
And he was sent to Australia, never saw them ever again.
That's extraordinary.
Now, he was pardoned, but by that time he'd been there nearly 7 years. He was never allowed to come back to the UK, so he stayed there. Anyway, his brother was also one of the swing rioters who got sent there, but his brother got sent to Tasmania. So actually it was edited out of my final Who Do You Think You Are because there was so much fantastic material in just my grandfather's side with the Sydney. But we did go to Tasmania and film in these extraordinary places. Well, this is the thing about Tasmania. It's not that big.
No.
You can drive north to south in about 3 hours. And we did do a lot of it. I was there for about 4 days. I had this amazing driver who lived in Hobart, the capital. He was born there, brought up there, lived there all his life. So he knew the place. So it was amazing. It was like a history lesson.
Amazing.
And I'm not great being driven, but I just loved it because he just talk. I remember there was one day when we were shooting and he said, we're going up to the north and we're going to stop somewhere for lunch and then we'll carry on to this place. And I thought, oh gosh, because it's so rural, epically so, epic countryside. It's the cleanest air in the world.
Is it? How amazing.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, what's this place we're going to
Where are we going?
What's it going to be like? You know, terrible. That I just thought, what? A restaurant, where?
In the middle of nowhere.
Well, it was the most extraordinary place. It was run by these women, all family members. It was casual, laid back, had a boho feel about it.
Amazing.
But not pretentious for 1 minute. The food was amazing, proper home cooked. Again, unpretentious food, but delish. And all around this little cafe restaurant was artwork that was for sale. Beautiful. And I bought a painting to bring back for my son and his wife.
How lovely. Did he love it?
Loved it. And opposite this restaurant was a shop, big shop called the General Store. And I thought, well, I've got to go in
Yeah,
there.
love a general store.
I can't tell you. It's my favourite shop in the world. I bought tea towels,
fantastic.
bedspreads, candles, brushes.
Fantastic.
It was heaven.
Heaven. That sounds amazing.
And it was all a bit piled up, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is Tasmania. The people were extraordinary. It was wonderful. I had some amazing walks along the shore. The air, I couldn't get enough of it.
And what was the restaurant called? Do you remember
No,
what its name is?
I don't remember.
But we'll look up the general store.
The General Store.
Amazing. I've never been to Australia, which is shocking in my line of business. It really, really is. But we've got a new client, hopefully, in Margaret River. So
Right.
on Western Australia.
Oh, yeah.
So if I do go over, then I'm going to hot-foot it to Tasmania.
Yes, it's worth
Go
it.
and find it.
It's
How
worth it.
interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
And I never expected to end up there.
No, wonderful.
And I may never ever go there again. But what struck me, its physical beauty is really breathtaking.
I must watch Who Do You Think You Are? Even though that bit's been
that
cut out.
bit has been cut
but
out.
I still must watch it. That sounds a fascinating story about your...
Yeah. And we
Great
went to the real
grandmother.
places where all the prisoners came off the boats and where they spent their first night.
It's a great programme. I do love that programme. I think it's wonderful. I shall be looking that up. So you've done your most unexpected as well in that answer.
That was
or have you got
unexpected.
another unexpected?
No.
Okay.
That was
That was
my
your
unexpected.
unexpected
But I
and
think it's
number one.
also where you should go if
you can.
If you can.
Absolutely. Let's go on to your most overrated or underrated travel experience.
I have to say I wasn't a fan of Luxembourg.
Oh.
I found it, and I know it's a small place. Again, you can drive north to south in 45 minutes or something. It's really small, and obviously it's a hub. A lot of business gets done there. And I was there over Christmas, and a lot of people said, "Oh, well, there's lots of Christmas markets." And I thought, "Oh, that's great." That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I just found it a bit. I was looking for something. It felt a bit sterile and a bit corporate.
No special
I
little feeling.
couldn't find that little cafe where something sung out to you. I was in a hotel because I was there for, I think, 3 weeks. And I was filming every day. So, I knew I wasn't going to be cooking and things like that. So a hotel's perfect, but I don't know. The place, it didn't really speak to me.
You. What were you filming there?
It hasn't come out yet. I was doing a film that it's called Winter of the Crow, and it's actually set in Poland.
Okay.
And we did go to Poland. We went to Warsaw after Christmas to film there. But we shot some of it in Luxembourg because they had invested in the film. So by shooting in Luxembourg, you got tax breaks, which is why I've been to a lot of the places I've been to, because like my series, well, I've done 2 of them already, Magpie Murders and Moonflower Murders, which has just been on.
Yeah.
They're not set in Ireland at all, but we shoot in Ireland because you get a lot of
tax
breaks.
When you did Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, did you go to Paris?
Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, you'd think, wouldn't you? You'd spend... Dior and all of that. No, I'm here to disappoint you and say
rats
that we had one day in Paris. There's the scene when Alba Baptista's character, that's the actress, I can't remember her character's name, she drives Mrs. Harris around in her little red sports car, which is actually like the little red sports car that my character Susan Ryland drives around in Magpie Murders and Moonflower Murders. But anyway, she drives her around Paris, and that you'd have to really spend loads on CGI. So we did drive around. It's still quite tricky because, of course, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris is set in the 50s.
Yes.
But they did a certain angle with the camera so that you could see our faces, but it was mostly looking upwards so that you could see the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe and all of that without seeing too much of the 21st century. So we had one day in Paris, and the rest of it was in Budapest.
Oh, really?
And because a lot of Budapest
looks like Paris.
Looks like old Paris.
In the 50s,
It really does. And that was in late 2020 that we shot
just
that.
after lockdown.
So, and COVID still very much on the go with testing. I mean, we were tested. I was tested every morning at 5 a.m.
Oh, really?
And it was also at the time when they used to think that you couldn't, to have the tests, you had to not drink before.
Oh,
so I remember getting to Budapest, they said, you can't drink for 8 hours before.
No.
I said, no, I drink gallons throughout the night. You can't. And they said, all right, well, 2 hours then.
Goodness.
But we were tested all day, every day. But that was a great trip. I want to go back to Budapest.
Yeah, very lovely, actually.
I loved it. I lived down in the area where there were a lot of embassies. It was quite near Heroes Square. Beautiful. Oh my goodness! If I could transport that flat to London, it was the best apartment I've ever had in my life. Huge, all on one level, huge open plan, great big epic ceilings, one room leading into the other. Oh, it was gorgeous. And I loved Budapest, but of course we couldn't do very much. Well, I couldn't do any eating out.
Because you were still having to...
In fact, there was one restaurant that was open, and you could only go with our little hub of people.
Because you didn't want to get...
And masks everywhere. But what I really want to go back to Budapest now and experience it outside of COVID and outside of filming. That would be a real number one hotspot for me to go back to just for pleasure. I met
the general manager of the best hotel in Budapest, and I can't remember what it is. I think it's an Anantara, But I met the general manager, and it's a member of Leading Hotels of the World, which we do the PR for. So if you want to go to Budapest, please let me know, because apparently it is exquisite. Amazing views, right location, and fantastic.
I think it's the hotel where if they had cast coming in just for a week or something, they put them in there. But because I was there for over 2 months, I had an apartment.
Lovely.
But what a lovely place Budapest is. Yeah. And there was a beautiful... they don't have a lot of subway lines, but one of them that ran from Heroes Square up into the town was original from the 30s, all wooden. And you went down into the subway and the ticket desk was all wooden. And the carriages were all wooden. It was beautiful.
How lovely. So if you go to Budapest, top tip, take that underground.
Top tip, take that little underground journey. It's just the quaintest, cutest thing. And I loved the people there too.
Lovely people. Actually, it takes us nicely onto the next travel secret, because I want to talk about food and drink. Obviously, so important to travel, to all of our lives. Where have you eaten a wonderful meal? What do you like eating? What is your drink? What are your favourite restaurants? Let's just talk about food and drink.
I am a great foodie. I love food, and I love a cocktail or two. I love a Negroni.
My favourite.
What's not to like?
They do a very good one at the Peninsula in London here.
Do
on
they?
The rooftop bar. I'll send you back.
Do they? Right, okay. Yeah, I'd love a Negroni on the rooftop here. So wherever I am, where to go and eat becomes a big thing. I worked in Rome last year, did 2 films in Rome, coincidentally, almost back to back. So I ate in a lot of good places there.
Wonderful Italian food.
Wonderful, love Italian food. And we also, I mean, everything was happening there. I was shooting 2 films, and then also they had the European premiere of season 1 of Citadel in Rome. So that night we had the most amazing, you're going to ask me where, and I'm never going to remember, but this extraordinary restaurant that laid on a banquet for us, and just course after course after course, exquisite. But food that I remember, real memory of meals. I remember with my ex-husband, going to Le Mammals 4 Saisons.
Oh, yeah.
I was 8 months pregnant. And we did the tasting menu.
Oh my goodness.
Where I managed to squeeze it in, given that our tummies shrink and you're meant to eat little and often when you're pregnant. And I being determined to get I'm going to get through this meal. And I did. But then I remember sitting in one of their window seats, and I just think I've really overdone it. You know, somebody carry me up to the room. But I remember that meal, epic. And another meal that I love is the River Cafe's lemon spaghetti, which you'd think would be. I make it all the time at home.
Oh, do you?
It's never the same. It's never the same. And it's something about, I think, properly combining the oil, the olive oil, which guess has got to be really top of the range olive oil. So maybe my olive oil hasn't been great enough. And you are meant to use Sicilian lemons. So maybe I haven't always used
Ruthie's flying in the lemons from Sicily.
Oh, Ruthie is definitely flying in the Sicilian lemons, definitely. But mixing the lemon juice and the oil together so that it's really creamy before you then add the tons of Parmesan, and getting all of that, making this creamy sauce. And something about it, I mean, listen, why would I be able to do it as well as Ruth's chefs at the River Cafe? And I've been there. Well, I haven't been there very recently, but I was there about 6 months ago. And of course, it wasn't on the menu. It's not always on the menu.
Not summer. Maybe.
So I really want Ruth just to I want one of her chefs to come to my house once a week, at least, and make me lemon spaghetti.
It's such a great restaurant, though, isn't it? Everything on that menu is so lovely. It's delicious. It's simple, but it's delicious. Yeah. And I've got her cookery book, and I can never do any of the menus like they do there.
And that cake, the chocolate cake, chocolate nemesis.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
I made that about 3 times, and it was just not working. And then, this is decades ago, I think she had to publish some sort of apology because the ingredients had been wrong.
So nobody was getting it right. That's
it kept just... But finally, my nemesis is proud and upright.
Oh, that's so wonderful. So what do you do when you're in a play or something like that? Do you usually eat during the play or after the play, or what do you do? I mean, it must be so difficult when you're doing a matinee for Oedipus. I mean, how do you get time? And you must be exhausted.
Well, on Oedipus, we were very lucky. We were at Wyndham's Theatre. We were right opposite Sheiky's. And I probably went there 4 times a week, if not 5, because it's perfect. Yeah. It's 10 steps and you're in Sheiky's, and they were so welcoming and lovely to us. So I've worked my way through the whole of that menu. I did love the Dorset crab, and I did love the miso salmon. Very good light end of show meal.
And you happy eating after the show at that late?
Well, not at all. I didn't eat every night, but the show came down at 9:30.
Okay,
so it's not super late. And but quite often you just in Sheiky's you just have a little crab on toast, a little light thing. Yeah. Delicious. But normally I'll try to eat at about 3 or 4 o'clock, then go and do the show. But we were perfectly placed there to get lovely things. Matinee days I didn't go out between the shows. It's a bit crazy around there. You've got Covent, you're sandwiched between Leicester Square, not so good, and Covent Garden, lovely, but still rammed with people. So didn't go out between shows. I'd bring stuff in. But Sheiky's really was the mainstay.
The canteen. When I came to see you in the matinee, I had lunch at Sheiky's. Yes. It was perfect, literally.
Yes.
Stepped over the road and there we were. Yeah. I had the fish pie, which is delicious.
Again, it's gorgeous.
Delicious.
They know what they're doing with fish there. Yeah, they certainly do. It's terrific.
But Negroni's at Brooklands Bar at the Peninsula. It's got a view over the whole of London on the rooftop, and a really good Negroni. I highly recommend it.
You need the big ice cube.
Yes, you do. The big ice cube, absolutely.
So that it doesn't, if the ice is too small, it dilutes the Negroni too quickly.
Absolutely. You know your Negroni snob now. Me too. Let's go on to your best insider travel secret. What's your insider travel secret or your travel tip?
Get lost in a place. I remember going to Venice for the film festival, probably first time I went was about 20 years ago. I had a day off. We'd done the festival, we'd done, the work side of things. So I just took myself off for a day, and I like that.
Yes, lovely.
I didn't have to
book anything.
Well, and also, hopefully, if you're going with somebody that you're close to, you want to hope that you're on the same page anyway, which is why you're in a relationship or a friendship with that person. But the fact when you have nobody else's whims or desires to adhere to, you're totally free to do your own thing. That's for me, that's heaven.
Very special.
And I remember this day, I put away a map, and I just walked. I got lost. I consulted the map. This is before mobile phones, really. Lovely. I took a map just so I could get back to my hotel. And I got lost, and I found little shops with where handmade gloves were made. Tiny little shop. I found another shop that sold nothing but hosiery, ladies' hosiery.
Oh, how wonderful.
I went to a restaurant that looked like a cafe, family run. Heaven.
So lovely.
That's the thing. Just allow yourself to get lost. Don't over-plan.
Yeah. And turn left instead of right.
Yes.
And just wander and actually go to the markets and just see the locals.
And that's the thing about the extended time I've had in places when you're not there as a visitor. You're there because you're working. And in a way, I like it more than having the holiday.
No, because you do get to see how people live.
You get to see how people live. And you get to go to the supermarkets because you've got to, because you've got to shop.
Yeah.
And I love French supermarkets.
Oh, so do I. And pharmacies.
And pharmacies, yes.
The best.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We have a new hotel opening in Venice this year, which is owned by Les Arels, which is a French group, but it's right next to the Cipriani, so it's on the other side. You know the Cipriani has an amazing garden. This has double the size of garden, and it is the most beautiful old classic hotel, which they are totally renovating. So that would be a lovely place for you to go.
Well, I was there this festival with Queer, the Luca Guadagnino film.
Which you're getting rave reviews and
yes,
award buzz.
It's a great film. Anyway, we were there at the festival, and we had the event and the screening, post-screening party and dinner at the Cipriani in that beautiful big hotel. And actually, I stayed, when I got married, we went on the Orient Express. Oh, that was our honeymoon. That could be the last time I've had what you'd call
a holiday.
Oh no, actually it isn't. No, it isn't. But we did the Orient Express, and we stayed at what's the pink hotel in Venice?
The Gritti.
The Gritti. We stayed half of the time in the Gritti and half the time in the Cipriani.
Lovely.
So it was gorgeous, and so it was lovely to go back there this August. So I'd love to go to that hotel.
Yes, you'd love it. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
It's really, really beautiful.
Yes.
And I mean, I've obviously hard hat seen it. I haven't seen it, but the plans are fantastic.
Yes.
And Venice is always a special place to go.
Yes, you want to go to Venice sort of out of
season. Yeah.
It is a bit. When I was there on my honeymoon, it was March.
Oh, that's lovely.
Really perfect.
That's perfect.
And yeah. But I feel like I've done Italy a lot. As I say, I was in Rome and with Luca's film this summer before last, and another film that I did. And then I was there the year before that, filming with Alfonso Cuarón, his series Disclaimer, which we made for Apple.
Yes.
We went and shot on the Amalfi Coast. So I've done a lot of, been in Italy a lot over the last 2 years, which has been
to change
wonderful.
destination.
Need to change things up.
You're going to LA soon.
I go to LA on Saturday just for a week. Then I'll come back, and then I'll be in Chicago for a week.
Oh, Chicago's lovely. Have you been to Chicago?
I went for one day many years ago, decades ago. So it's going to be very cold. Thankfully, I'm not going from LA straight to Chicago, because you've got completely two different wardrobes there. I don't know that I've quite got the gear for Chicago, so I need to do some shopping.
That wind that comes up.
Yes.
There's a really nice peninsula there if you want to go there.
Is there?
Yeah, I don't know where you're staying, but...
I'm staying at Soho House.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's fun.
Yes.
You'll have a good time.
Again, that's only for about a week. And then in March, I go back to do the third and final book in the Anthony Horowitz series of Magpie Murders, Moonflower Murders. This one's going to be called Marble Hall Murders. He's just written the book, which will be released quite soon, I think. It is the very last outing for Susan Ryland. And I'll be going back to Ireland and I live, when I'm there, I live in Dalkey, which is about Dalkey. It's about 20 minutes south of Dublin, on the coast.
Lovely.
I just want to give a moment on this podcast to Dalkey, because if there's anywhere I could live that's realistic, as in has a proximity to London and the UK, because I love London and I love the UK. Every time I fly back in,
you're happy,
and I see it, I just go, oh wow, London is pretty amazing, stunning. But Dalkey, Bono lives there actually.
Does he?
It's a one-street town.
Oh, really?
Surrounded by epic coastline.
Oh, gorgeous.
Epic countryside. But Dalkey, this is the thing about Dalkey. This one street has got everything you'd want for a nice life. It's got the most lovely food shops, coffee shops, restaurants. It's
Post office.
Post office.
Pub.
Finnegan's Pub, world famous pub. I used to film all day, and I'd get driven home and I'd say to my driver, just drop me off at Finnegan's. Because when I film, I like to eat. You're up so early.
Yeah.
You're up at 4:35. So I have to eat a good breakfast to get me through to 1 o'clock. Because by the time you get to lunchtime, you've
been up
already
for
done
8
a 7-hour, 8-hour day. You've got another 5 hours to go. So I eat a good breakfast and I eat a good lunch because I'm ravenous. I don't really want much in the evening. So I used to get him to drop me. I'd go into Finnegan's. The great thing about Finnegan's is I never felt like, well, there's that woman who sits on her own.
Yeah, poor old thing.
Poor thing. She must be an alcoholic.
She hasn't got any friends. Oh no, she's that famous actress. Oh my God.
It's great. There's loads of people, women included, in there on their own.
Perfect.
And I'd sit and I'd have a pint of Guinness, which is like dinner.
Yeah, perfect.
And then I'd walk home along the coast to my apartment.
Lovely.
But the people, oh my God, the people.
The Irish are wonderful.
Oh.
They're absolutely
And it's got a
wonderful.
great butcher's, fish shop, little gift shop.
That's going on my list. Dalkey, here I
Dalkey.
come.
And I've now discovered I was at Jack Loud and Saoirse Ronan's wedding this year, and I met this lovely lady who lives in Dalkey.
Is Saoirse from there?
No, Saoirse's from Cork, I think.
Is she? She's a great actress too.
Yes, brilliant
Fantastic.
actress.
Really
As is her
wonderful.
husband, Jack
Yes, he's wonderful too.
So Dalkey, a big shout out for Dalkey. Dalkey!
Dalkey, I'm coming, I'm coming.
It's not cheap to live there though, because there was this house for sale.
I thought, oh, good.
And I looked at it, a beautiful sort of double-fronted Victorian house. And I thought, I love property anyway. I mean, that's my hobby.
Is it?
Looking at property, even when I really
Right move.
don't want to move. Well, I'm a bit of a fan of the modern house and its sister company, Inigo.
Oh yes, I love Indigo. It's fantastic.
Because the modern house, it's all the very clues in the title. But an Inigo is the period.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's gorgeous.
Anyway, I looked at this house in Dalkey. I was really surprised.
Oh.
It's not cheap, but it's
Gorgeous.
lovely.
Maybe
So I'll be there from March for a few months. Delightful.
How wonderful. What is your most poignant travel memory?
Well, I can't tell this story without name dropping.
That's fine.
It is
Name drop away.
It's a pretty
the whole
hefty name
podcast is all actors and film people. So
Poignant it's like a moment for me.
Yes.
You know, this is a moment I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
about. My son was 6 weeks old, and I was married to Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
And Gary had become friends with David Bowie, but I'd not met David. They were in New York, and they'd met through the late director Nicholas Roeg, and they'd met and they'd become friends. And David said, well, why don't you and Lesley come to Mustique, where he had a house right next door to Princess Margaret. We didn't film the Princess Margaret scenes in Mustique, by the way.
Sadly.
We shot the Princess Margaret scenes in Mallorca.
Did you?
Pretty stunning.
Yeah.
Bit of Mallorcan coastline, gorgeous. Anyway, so we said, well, we'd love to come to Mustique, but we can't come until, babies have to have this 6-week checkup, and then they're given, hopefully, the all clear. So we said, well, when he's 6 weeks, we can come. So he said, right, okay, well, just come, It'll be very easy. You'll have your own suite in my place, and there'll be people there to help with Alfie if that helps you and Lesley and blah blah. Anyway, so we go to Mustique, and David was the most lovely human being, easy and warm and generous and kind and talented. And he actually sat us in this room and said he was just doing his work with the group he formed, which was called Tin Machine.
Yes.
But they hadn't released an album. So he said to us, do you want to just listen to this music?
Tell me if it's
Tell me what you think. You think,
wow.
How can you tell David what you know? Anyway, but he meant it. He didn't want us to
show
blow
off. He
smoke up his arse.
He
wanted us to know what we thought,
constructive
which was
criticism.
very, very sweet.
Oh,
anyway,
amazing.
after about 5 days, he said, look, how do you feel about going out on my boat? He had a fully crewed boat, permanent boat,
Amazing.
He said, why don't we go out on the boat for a few days and we'll go around the islands and, we pick a spot and we say we'll go over there and the crew will set, heaven. And he very sweetly gave Gary and I the master suite because we had the baby and all that. Very lovely. And so it was just us and his bass guitarist. And so we're on the boat and we've been having a lovely few days. And one morning, I said to Gary, "Go and you go up there, go up for breakfast. I'll join you in a minute. Just get Alfie, blah, blah." So I got this beautiful new baby that I've, been gifted with. And I got him all ready. And I came out of the door and I'm on the edge of the boat. And this was my moment. And I stood there and I thought, I've got this stunning new baby in my life. I'm looking out at this breathtaking view of the Caribbean. And as I walked up to join them at the front of the boat, David was singing. He was just riffing on his guitar, singing "Ground Control to Major Tom."
Oh my goodness.
And I remember thinking, right, just stand still. Just stand still. Listen to this moment, because this is quite a big moment. And it was all to do with him, that voice, his warmth and generosity, the song, the boat, the view, my husband,
the baby. How divine. That is the most wonderful, wonderful story. I was such a huge David Bowie fan. I really regret he's the one person that I love that I never saw in concert.
Right.
He was amazing. But I went to the retrospective that he had at the V&A, where they had all his costumes and everything.
Yeah.
And he was so creative.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
And talented and wonderful. There are two other stories which I think are poignant, but they might not be to you, but they are for when we listen and we read about you. When you got nominated for The Phantom Thread.
Yes.
And you went to the Oscars.
Yes.
And Gary had been nominated for Churchill.
Yeah.
And your son was with you.
Yes.
That must have been an amazing thing.
It
to
was.
see both of his parents. Tell us a little bit.
Well, it was, obviously for Alfie, our son, it gets a bit kind of like last year, I said to I was nominated for a BAFTA and I said, "Do you want to come to the BAFTAs?" And he went, "Oh, do I have to?" And he doesn't mean it quite in that way, but I know what he means because, it's... But it's fine. I took his wife, Sarah, who's like a daughter to me.
I bet she was so happy.
I love her. She really is this presence in my life that's extraordinary.
Oh, how
it's
wonderful.
like having a daughter. So, but, and I don't mean to say that Alfie is spoilt and a brat or anything, but I know what he meant. It's, he's grown up with that. So it's not a kind of, oh, wow thing for him. But it was when it was both his mum and his dad. He had been to the Oscars before that with Gary. I think Gary was nominated for Tinker Tailor's
Soldier
Spy, I think. Anyway, he went. Alfie had gone to the Oscars before. But of course, this was a bit of a deal because we both were.
Yes, exactly.
But that was I'll tell you about the emotions of it and everything, but the travel to it is interesting as well, given what we're doing here today. So I was doing Long Day's Journey into Night in the West End with, this is 2018, with Jeremy Irons. And we were doing the kind of New York schedule of plays. So you do 2 plays on a Saturday, you do a late matinee on the Sunday, so you'd have Sunday night all day, and Monday was your day off. And then you come back and do the show Tuesday night. And I really like that because you kind of feel like you have 2 evenings off. as opposed to what normally happens is you just have Sunday off.
Yeah.
So the Oscars are on a Sunday, and obviously there's the travel
to LA.
Yes. So what they agreed to do, they wouldn't let my understudy go on the Saturday for 2 shows, and I understood that.
Yeah.
But they said what we will do is we will cancel the Sunday matinee and put an additional midweek matinee in. Fair enough. So that meant I did the show Saturday night, and then I didn't have to be back and do the show again until Tuesday. But still, bear in mind that LA is
8 hours.
8 hours behind, but you've got to do a 12-hour flight, and you've got to get there and get ready.
Did you get there?
Well, the thing is, the first flight out of London Heathrow wasn't until something like 10 o'clock in the morning. And I would have arrived, all things being not delayed and everything, I would have arrived at LAX at 1:30 p.m. and you have to kind of start arriving to the Oscars at 3 o'clock. So I'd have had an hour and a half from landing.
From the airport.
To get to a hotel, get ready.
Time, can you imagine? So how did you do it?
So we thought, well, this isn't going to work. So what they found out was that if we actually, and this is just me and Alfie going, he wasn't married at that point, we flew away from the UK to Amsterdam very early.
Was there an earlier flight?
And there was an earlier KLM flight out of Amsterdam to LA. So I did the show, which was a long show. I got to bed at midnight, got up at 2, so I had 2 hours sleep.
Oh.
I knew I had to arrive with clean hair because there wouldn't be time to wash my hair when I got there. So I got up at 2, did all the hair, everything, boom. We got the flight to Amsterdam, but the flight coming into, is it Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, which is vast. It's a one-terminal airport because it's kilometres. And we were late.
Oh my God.
So obviously while we were flying, various team members in my life were on the phone. As soon as we stepped off that plane, there was a lady there, a Dutch lady, and she put us on this buggy. We couldn't stop laughing because honestly, it was like Lewis Hamilton going through Schiphol Airport.
Out the way.
And it went on forever. I mean, this buggy journey took about 15 minutes. We were hysterical. And we just got on the flight. And it's still only something like 8 o'clock in the morning or something, but we were on the KLM flight. Anyway, we get there. I get there and they said, look, you can't stay. No point taking you to the Four Seasons because you won't get there in time and then get back. So they put me into a room in a hotel right next door to the Kodak where the ceremony, so I could and I just sat there like this, and there was somebody doing my hair, somebody doing my makeup, somebody doing my nails, and somebody doing my feet, and somebody bringing in diamonds. It was mad. But anyway,
that's extraordinary.
It was lovely because Alfie was there. He was my +1, so he sat with me, but obviously he was with his dad and his brothers. They were all there, and after the ceremony is quite chaotic, and there's all these breaks for the commercials, and everyone gets up and goes. You think, come back, it's about to start again. But afterwards, we had this lovely time, and he could be with his whole family.
That's so
and
nice.
That became for him a big memory, I think, and very special. And the next morning he got up, and I had all these gifts which I couldn't take home. There was like crates of oranges.
Oh no.
Drink. I couldn't take that home on the flight. So I said, he was going up to Gary's house. I said, look, take all these gifts. To Dad. So he took it all up there, and So he went up and had a nice post-Oscar
thing
morning with them, and I got on the flight. We got on the flight Monday afternoon, which of course anyone who's done that flight, you know that you're then coming 8 hours ahead so I got off the plane at Heathrow at 11 in the morning, Tuesday morning.
And then you had to do the play.
Went and did a nice light comedy.
Long
day's journey into night.
Comedy. Exhausted.
And I remember Jeremy Irons, I said, how are you, Jerry? He said, I'm a bit tired.
Did you say, don't even?
No!
Don't even suggest it. Oh, that's so wonderful. That takes us nicely on to the photograph. I asked you to talk about a photograph that means something to you. And I know you're going to have a photograph that you're going to tell us about, but I want to ask you about one other photograph, which I have heard you talk about before, which is, I think it's a photograph, but it's also got a message that your son did for you. Just tell us a little bit about that.
When my son was 10, Gary sent this it's a little frame that opens out like a little book. And on one side is a little photo of Alfie, circa age 10. And on the other side, you press a little button and it's a message that he recorded for my birthday. And of course, it is utterly, utterly heartbreaking, this little voice. It sits on my bedside table, always, wherever I am in the world. So even if I go away for a night in England, it will always be with me.
So wonderful.
And when I was in Poland, this time last year, it dropped out of onto a carpet, but it's made it's made the battery. I can still hear his voice, but it's gone a bit fuzzy. Oh, no. So I'm a bit scared to open it up, but I think I have to be brave.
No, you know what you have to do? What? You have to go on the repair shop. You know that wonderful programme.
I love the repair shop.
It. And they'll repair it for you.
Maybe they will.
They will. They'd love to do that.
Because somewhere in there is, but you can still hear his voice.
No,
it's a bit fuzzy.
It.
But it's my, if my house was burning down, that would be the thing I took. And I do take. He's 36.
I know, but how wonderful that! When I read that, I literally cried. I thought it was so wonderful. So let's talk about the other photograph, which sums up travel for you, and you want to talk about. But that to me is just such a divine story.
It is. It's lovely. Well, it's in a career or life where so much of it is about saying goodbye and I'll see you, I'll be back in a week or whatever. You want to take some. I know in this age of phones and photographs and everything, it's like everything is, we have it, but actually I got this when there weren't phones, and certainly not phones that were the size of a brick, and you certainly couldn't keep a photo in them. So,
but you've got his voice as well.
But I've got his voice, and it's just such a sweet little voice. Before it broke, it was very soft and lovely, and it's just lovely. So that travels with me everywhere.
That's just wonderful. And now tell us about the other travel photograph.
Well, the photograph I will give you is I've been so fed up of luggage breaking. It gets thrown around a lot, I know, in the scheme of travelling, not by me, but by baggage handlers. And I was buying so much luggage, and then I'd send it back, and they'd send a new one, and then it would break again. And then about 18 months ago, I thought, right, enough. I know I'm going to be spending this year travelling a lot. I'm going to invest in good luggage. Now, I've recently found out that it's actually pronounced Rimowa.
Oh, I thought it was Rimola.
Well, it's Rimowa.
Yes.
So I was saying Rimowa.
Yes, Rimowa, that's what I always.
But apparently it's like,
Rimowa.
as in Nuevo.
Nuevo, yeah.
And I last year I was a brand ambassador for Nuevo. And I didn't know how to say it until they asked me
No. Oh,
I know. I said it to my friend who's a great fashionista. I said, oh, I'm going to be a brand ambassador for Loewe. She said, for God's sake, woman, you've got to learn how to pronounce it for a start. So I think it's in the same way that Rimowa is not Rimowa, it's Rimowa. So I went and invested, and I mean invest.
Yes, absolutely.
So I started out with their kind of just regular size check-in bag. And of course I wanted the classic one, you know, the silver, solid, with the lovely edges on it.
So gorgeous.
Crafted.
The best. I really think it's the best.
So beautiful to look at as well. Lifetime guarantee, listeners.
Really? That's good to know.
Lifetime guarantee. So
worth the investment.
you buy it now and you never have to buy. That's what I thought. I never will need to buy another piece of luggage again. And they do guarantee it also against serious knocking by airline luggage handlers. So I bought the standard one, and then I thought, well, I'm going to need the one if I'm just going to Dublin for a weekend. The
hand luggage.
So I got that. And then last year, when I was going to LA for 3 months, and I was sort of going cross seasons a bit. I mean, I know LA is always pretty much so I went and bought the trunk.
I was going to say, did you buy the trunk? Fantastic.
So I've got 3 pieces of luggage.
But it is the best.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
And they give you these lovely leather
luggage
tags,
labels.
and they will engrave them with your initials. So I've got the luggage things with my initial. I mean, honestly, who do I think I am?
Well,
my working class girl from Brighton.
No, you're Lesley Manville, a very famous and wonderful British actress who deserves the best luggage because you're travelling all the time.
I am travelling all the time, and I do honestly think that I've got value because I will never need to buy another piece again. But I've just found out they've made a kind of little crossbody solid handbag.
I know. That might be your next
If you're watching,
investor.
Rimova,
She should definitely be your ambassador. Absolutely.
Honestly, really, it's such good luggage.
Oh, fantastic. That is so wonderful to sum up with that, because I absolutely agree. I love that luggage so much. I wish that I did have the set. I don't. I only have the little one that goes in the hold, but I aspire to it. It has been such a joy and delight to go around the world with you.
Well,
it's been amazing.
We did go to Tasmania at least, didn't we?
And I'm going to go to the general store in Tasmania when I go there. I cannot wait. You're travelling so much. We are going to see you on our TVs and our film screens, which is such a joy and delight.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, it's been a complete pleasure. It's always nice to talk about work, but it's with the added nugget of throwing in the travel stories that go with it. Because, I mean, I do, and I have to say, as a kind of PS to all this, I do still pinch myself. I never take it for granted. You know, I turn left on the plane, usually, if I'm not paying. It's a privilege, and I really don't take it for granted. And I always think, oh my goodness, what a lucky, lucky life I have. And I will never take it for granted. And the gift of travel is given to me by so many jobs that I do. But really, it's so lucky.
Well, we're the lucky ones to be able to watch you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tanya.